Stress has got to go find his cat. Or no, he's got to let the cat out.
No, she's got to go. She was knocking off my desk all morning during the morning.
See you later, Lola Cat. All right, Stress, it's always fun when we get one of our CMT buddies on the show. Today's guest, Andrew Moss. I met him for the first time when we were at the New York City CMT Symposium, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And they had a happy hour on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. And that's where Andrew and I met for the first time. And, you know, what a great place to meet somebody for the first time, right?
One of the cooler events I've ever been to when they held that little happy hour on the floor of the exchange. And everybody was there. That was like the best CMT conference ever, because I was just saying to Andrew off air, like, didn't we meet there? I met like everybody at that symposium.
Yeah, we got to talk to Jay Woods and make that happen again. That was something.
Well, they're holding them out in Dubai. They're having all this fun overseas now. I don't know. They got to bring it back to the city.
Well, why? Are they saving money out there? What's the deal? I can't imagine it's very cheap in Dubai.
I don't think it's cheaper out in Dubai in particular, but sounds fun.
All right. Well, before we bring Andrew on, you know, we like to have people who are both a CMT and an active trader. For us, that's like kind of like the perfect mix, right? They speak our language. You know, we're technical analysts. Only price pays. We all follow that mantra. Andrew's one of those guys, but Andrew also is a prop trader, so he's got his feet in the fire every day. And I'm sure he's got some tales. And he's like, he lives out in like West Virginia. Or no, sorry. West Virginia. Yeah. Which you don't meet too many traders in West Virginia, do you?
Well, we could have him come on and tell the story, but he was just telling us off air that he's one of 2 chartered market technicians in the state of West Virginia.
All right, let's bring Andrew up. Gene, bring Andrew up into the picture. Andrew, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for making the time. I know we had to reschedule this. We tried this a few months ago, but here we are. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having us. What's up, guys?
So you and shout out Drew Wells, 2 lovely CMTs in West Virginia. Is that right?
As far as I know, I haven't checked the roster in a while, but the last time I looked, it was only 2 of us, and both of us. I'm assuming Drew is named Andrew, me. Both, so that's another little oddity there. I don't know what the odds are, but
so it's fair to say you are one of the best CMTs in West Virginia.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the top 5.
So they have like a directory that shows where all the CMTs live somewhere?
Yeah, there used to be one on the CMT Association website. And like I said, I haven't looked at it in a while. But yeah, you could go through the directory and see all the members, both CMT and just general members or whatever you call it.
And Sean, we know that you can also do it, or at least they have it, obviously, by country. Because when we were in Asia last year, Joel was sharing all the numbers by country with us. So that's super interesting. I wonder what the number 2 state is after New York. Would love to know. I don't know.
I would guess, if I had to guess, I would say Florida.
You think so?
I think so.
There are a lot of us. You're right.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of us have addresses in other states, though.
All right, Andrew, I'm curious. What came first for you? Did you become a chartered market technician first, or did you become a prop trader first?
I was a CMT first. I did that back in 2015.
Okay. So had you done any trading at all before you went for your CMT designation?
Kinda. I started at Smith Barney way back in the day at a wirehouse, client advisor. Did that for a lot of years, and so that was my history pre-trading days and CMT days.
Wait, I find actually detour real quick. I find this interesting. You don't hear too many people who start out in the brokerage side and become traders. It usually goes the other way. They start out as traders. They can't make it. It's tough. It's hard, whatever. Then they're like, oh, maybe I should work with people and manage wealth, or, stockbroker is kind of a dead thing that doesn't happen anymore, but RIA stuff, like people go the other way. They started trading first and then they graduate. You went the other way. Interesting.
Yeah. And I've always thought the exact same thing. It's like you go into a wirehouse and get entrusted with client money, And the wirehouses have extensive training programs, but guess what they don't teach you how to do? Manage money or trade or, navigate the stock market very well. They that's their model. They say we're going to trust the experts and that kind of stuff. And I've always thought, it's kind of backwards. You should go probably learn about the markets and how to navigate and manage money before you try to get clients and other people's money to take care of. Right. So yeah, it is a little different, but to me, it makes a lot more sense. But nevertheless, here I am.
So what was
And
that
how,
wirehouse experience like? You went right to Smith Barney out of like business school? It was your first
Yeah,
job?
I right out of college, went to Smith Barney. It was in June of 2000. So, the market was on fire. They didn't need brokers or advisors. They just, everything went up forever, right? That's what everybody thought was going to happen. So, started in June of 2000. The market had recently peaked 3 months before that, looking back in hindsight. And, people didn't make much money until about 2003. So that was kind of jumping in with both feet, trial by fire, whatever you want to call it, and really trying to figure things out. And then you get a few good years, and '07 and '08 hit, and it's quite a ride.
Do you have any thoughts on all of the comparisons that we hear about every day out here today about the dot-com bubble, right? The AI boom that is taking place now, all of these analogs back to the late 90s and 2000.
I don't see it. I don't. I mean, coming out of COVID and the 21 bubble, if you want to call that, was really wild and short lived. But and granted, I wasn't fully immersed in the markets in 98, 99 and early 2000. So I didn't, I wasn't trading that stuff. I wasn't reading, looking at PEs and charts and thinking about how overvalued everything was and all that kind of thing. So, but from what I remember, it doesn't seem to be to that level of hype and fever right now.
Good.
yeah. All right. So I'm curious, it sounds like you were at Smith Barney for, if I'm doing the math right, about 15 years. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, from 2000 to 2020.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I'm curious, that experience, you were not trained as a trader, right? They had no interest in you being a trader, but I have to imagine a company like that, things rub off on you. You learn things. Do you think, was there anything you could point to that like you think maybe built a good base for you to take that knowledge with you when you started trading?
Sure. I had a strong foundation in the markets. My dad started at Harris Upham in like '67. He'd been there forever. He started giving me point and figure chart books, the old Chartcraft books back when I was a teenager. I've been around it my whole life. And so I had been interested and somewhat involved for a long time before I ever got started professionally. And so, just to take you through kind of the course of action there, in 2008 and 9, we really were trying to find a better way than buy and hope. It was up to that point, and back to the wirehouse training, modern portfolio theory. Look at the efficiency curve, structure your portfolio properly, everything will work out fine and all that kind of stuff. And it does if you really have the fortitude to make it through those dot-com bubbles and the global financial crisis and not bail out. But the reality is a lot of people just can't sit still through that stuff. And so trying to figure out a plan of action to make things a little more palatable for investors and clients while still allowing them to participate, I made the transition into being a portfolio manager and thought, we're going to take a more active role where we can not necessarily trade accounts, but have a more proactive role in updating allocations and exposures along the way, because people that, let's face it, there is a time when it makes sense to play some defense, right? We all know that as traders. Long-term investors don't always think that way, but it resonates and can save people a lot of money. So that's what we were looking at. And so through that process of trying to learn and become a portfolio manager, I thought, you know what, I really should think like a trader in a lot of ways. You know, you've got to figure out proper position sizing, when to take opportunities, when to set it out, how to allocate across multiple accounts and different asset classes and all that kind of stuff. So that really started me thinking in a more of a trading mindset, and everything else just kind of snowballed from there.
And how big of a role did your father play in you making that transition or learning that new skill? So like your father was a technician. Was he like in your ear, like, hey, you got to learn technical analysis, like that'll help you? Like how instrumental?
He was a big fan from the get-go, and he certainly was pushed me towards that. He had, coming back in Harris Upham, way back in the day, he would always be telling me stories about Alan Shaw and
Wow.
Ralph Acampora and Luis Yamada and all of these technicians that kind of paved the way for the rest of us. And so I was familiar with those names from early on. And I just, the more I was around it, the more we talked about it, the more I looked into it. I was like, this stuff really makes a lot of sense.
That's awesome.
And so when you started looking into the CMT, was your thought that were you thinking at that point you wanted to become a trader, but you needed to get your CMT first, or did trading come along later?
Not exactly. I'd already kind of gotten the bug and thought it would be really fun to be a trader. But as part of the portfolio management process, I was already studying and trying to learn everything I could about charts and technical analysis. And so when I learned about the CMT program, I was like, this is a no-brainer. I'm doing all this anyway. I might as well formalize the process and get all the benefits that go along with the credentials and the network and meeting the people and all that kind of stuff. So it was just, it was very clearly a logical next step. And a few years before that, I'd looked into the CFP program, and it didn't take me long to think like, this is accounting and tax, and I don't want to do this. And when I went around to the charts and the technical analysis, the stuff that I was already doing and trying to take that another step up, it was just a no-brainer.
So you come from your background in trading, or at least in the markets, was this role at Smith Barney, this portfolio management, working with clients, trying to get people to invest for the long term, all that stuff. Now, juxtapose that versus what you're doing now. You're working at a New York City prop trading firm. Your feet in the fire. You got the scoreboard up on your screen all day, every day. You're eating what you kill. You went from earning a paycheck to now trying to pull money out of the markets. What has that transition been like? I have to imagine it hasn't been smooth sailing. There's been some bumps along the road.
For sure. Some bumps, some potholes, some, setbacks, that kind of thing. That is quite a switch. And you think markets, and you think stocks and how to manage money and that kind of stuff. And then when you make the transition to doing it, not on your own, but with a group and for a living and that kind of thing, that's it's a huge shift in mindset. And one that takes a lot of, I'm still getting used to it. It's been 4 years, and it's still learn something new every day, and still trying to continue to change my thinking and my way of, just approaching the markets to make it more useful.
Strez, I think we need to be clear here, because in a past episode, we had a guest come on and talk about these newfangled prop trading firms.
Oh,
Andrew Moss works at an old school, real prop trading firm. We won't name any names because it's not about that, but he works at a firm where they have real traders. They all work in the office. Now, Andrew works remote out of West Virginia, and they have a bunch of remote traders. But, there's a difference between the old school, real prop trading firms versus these newfangled things we've been hearing about lately.
Yeah.
Andrew, are you familiar with any of these other, online prop firms that I'm referring to?
Just from what I see in people chattering about, apparently I think fortunately I don't have any experience with them. But these funded trading challenges and this kind of stuff, there's a couple folks on X and other places that are just really taking them through the ringer about some cautionary tales to and some things to avoid with that stuff for sure.
Yeah, Andrew works at a prop firm where you're part of the firm and you're trading firm capital, and they're not making you pay to be there, so to speak. They're not charging you, like, you got to like pay to meet some hurdles. This is you're part of the team. You're trading the firm's capital, and you get a percentage of your profits, and that's how the prop trading model worked for decades, right? And that's how it should work.
So how did you make this move? Like, how did you get involved with guys at T3?
So it started, trying to think back in probably, it was the really early days of Twitter. As I'm trying to get more in touch with the trading mindset, what do? You start trying to find other traders and learn what they're doing, how they're looking at it. And, one of the first guys I found, like a lot of people, probably Scott Redler.
The Red Dog.
The Red Dog. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, this guy's always talking about the 8 and 21 day moving averages. What's so special? From a portfolio management standpoint, it's the 50 and the 200, and you don't care about anything else. And so I'm looking at that. And that led to another, and you just start getting this network of people that you read and follow and start to feel like you're getting to know. And obviously Scott's a T3, one of the co-founders, and that just sparked my interest in the firm. And one thing led to another.
So really, the answer is Twitter. And I know Sean has gotten jobs through Twitter before. I got my job basically through Twitter. This is not an uncommon thing for people in our world, right?
It's amazing.
Build relationships on social media. It's typically almost always Twitter in our field. And then that leads to something. Were you putting yourself out there and tweeting, and that's how you met and started to build a relationship with Scott?
Not initially. No, because, in the wirehouse world, you can't do any of that. They're like, no chat rooms, no Twitter, none of that stuff. They got better in the later years and realized that it was a tool that could be used, by anybody. But in the early days, they were like, you cannot participate in this stuff. You can read anything you want, but, they didn't want anybody out there, tweeting stock tips and that kind of thing. So,
and that's how, hold on, just to this point, this is important. It's obnoxious now. A lot of people hate how there are so many people on Twitter who are not themselves. In other words, what do you call people on Twitter they're not saying
charlatan?
They are? What?
Charlatan?
No, like somebody who's like, it's not a picture of their face in their profile picture and they got some other name, but like they become very popular on Twitter, but they never use their real name or reveal who they are. A lot of these people, it's because they simply can't.
True. Right. That's true. A lot of anonymous personalities out there that, you don't know who you're talking with or what they're doing or if it's real or any of that kind of stuff.
A lot of these guys are like you, Andrew. They're just, they can't reveal who they are because it's against the rules or compliance situation where they work.
Yep. That's very
that
true.
reminds me. I was reading a story recently about, a few years ago, there was a CEO of a small cap company that was on Reddit anonymously, basically pumping his stock.
I don't even want to know how common that is.
It's probably way more common than we think.
Anyway, what you were saying? What were you saying when I rudely interrupted you?
We all forgot. We're moving on. Andrew, okay, so you have, correct me if I'm wrong, but since you became a prop trader, have you always worked out of your home or, away from New York City?
Away from New York City, yes. Always out of my home, no. We had an office downtown and where I went every day for lots of years. And then, as remote working became more available and accessible, you guys know, you never really, well, not never, but it's very easy to stay attached to the markets well beyond the hours of 9:30 to 4. And you get a lot of work done in the early hours before client calls and that kind of stuff. So I had gotten into a routine of starting and ending a day in my remote office at home and working at the main location during the day. COVID kicked that up a notch where, obviously we're all remote full time. And so at that point, that was before I made the switch, I was like everybody else in the world, just about working remotely 100% of the time.
So I'm curious about something. One of the best benefits of working at a prop trading firm like you do is that you get to surround yourself
Yeah.
with other successful traders or traders who are on the come up, so to speak, and learning things, and everyone's sharing ideas. It's a great beehive of activity of like-minded people trying to accomplish the same goal. Now, working remote, that introduces some different challenges. Yes, we can all stay connected on Zoom and we can do chat rooms and all that stuff. But do you feel like that benefit is diminished in any way being kind of isolated the way you are working remotely?
It certainly is to an extent. And in the early days, I wanted nothing more than to just be able to go and actually be live on the floor in the presence of other real people. I thought that would be a huge benefit to be able to talk to people in real time. You're not typing a chat, and having an actual conversation would be a lot better. The technology is there, however, to make it really pretty seamless once you adapt to it. We have on the T3 Live has several what they call virtual trading floors where you're in a room with the rest of the trading squad, and there's typically a couple of people on a microphone providing commentary and thoughts throughout the day, and the rest of you are kind of in a chat window. And it takes a little getting used to, but it's still very effective and a
Cool.
great platform for sharing ideas and thoughts and calling out news events or other occurrences as they happen in real time. So it makes everything work very well.
So basically, the idea is to recreate that office culture and vibe virtually the best that you
Yep.
can.
Yep. And you don't have a microphone for everybody, because then obviously people are talking over one another, and it would just turn into a giant jumbled up mess.
Well, from a lifestyle and health perspective, I can see one positive in this, Streza, is that there's far less happy hours after work when you're all working from home.
Or they're just a lot lonelier, either way you want to look at it.
Would you say it's effective though, doing it virtually like that? Like it'll never be the same really as being actually in an office, but it works for you guys.
Yeah, it definitely works. As effective, I don't know, because I never did it the other way.
Right.
The other folks in Manhattan would be able to provide more insight on that, but I gotta just like if the three of us were sitting in a room together having this conversation, it would be different, right? But we still get it done, and it works okay.
Yeah, we'd have to smell Steve, and that just wouldn't be as great. Um, so let me ask you this: you're still, relatively speaking, you've been in the industry for a long time, but relatively speaking, you're newer in trading. So this might be more pertinent to you. With you, is have you had the benefit of working with a mentor or mentors? You don't need to name any names if you have, but have you had that benefit, and what's that like for you?
Oh, certainly. There's been many, and when I started, and uh, right off the bat, Derek Oldensmith is he heads up one of the VTFs, the virtual trading floors, and that's where I went first and spent most of the time, and he taught me just a ton about how to anything from how to use the software, getting used to light speed to different tactics to manage your day and deal with the markets on shorter time frames, and all that kind of stuff. And there's I don't have as close a relationship with Scott, although I've learned a ton from him over the years. He's an indirect mentor, you could say, because he probably doesn't know it, but he's taught everybody a ton of stuff, right? And nowadays, for the last couple of years, working with David Prince and Rick March and Kira Turner in the inner circle room has just been a real game changer. There's just very good traders, very professional, very helpful, and absolutely there to help everyone, not just me, learn and adapt and figure out how to get what you're after.
And it goes both ways, right? So you've had great mentors in your career, but I'm sure that now, especially you've been at the prop firm for 4 years now, you're probably doing a good deal of mentoring other people. No, and that's really valuable as well.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm a chart guy, and so I look at the technicals and the charts, and I believe that people are learning from what I share, both in the trading rooms and on Twitter and my website and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I guess that's in that indirect way. I think it's that's kind of what we all want to do ultimately, right? Is give back and help the next folks learn and figure it out too.
So you mentioned Scott, and when I think of traders, and especially when I think of Scott, one of the biggest things I learned from him over the years was he's such a big routine guy. He
Oh yeah.
loves to talk about his routine. He is absolutely religious about his routine. He came on the morning show one day earlier this year. He was like doing juice shots and telling us about how he does the juice shots at this time in the morning, and it's just incredible. Like, he's so disciplined about it. Like, did you pick up bits and pieces of that? Are you also a routine guy?
For sure. And I can't even pretend to have the same rigorous routine that the Red Dog does, but that was something that he passed on, from the get-go. It's like, wow, this guy's up early. He does the same routine every day, no matter what, right? I mean, it's like
He's doing ice baths.
Yeah, everything. And it's like, it doesn't matter what happened the day before, he's doing it, right?
Big focus on health and wellness, which I think is awesome. And it's something that doesn't get talked about enough from people in our circles, right?
It's huge. It's you got to be clear-headed. You've got to be disciplined, and it's hard to do all of those things when you don't feel good, right? If you're tired, if you're hungover, if you're sick, all of that is going to take a huge toll. And we can't, maybe keep that from happening 100% of the time. But if you just, you take care of your health, stay active, and it's going to help all of those things, which, ultimately makes you trade better and think better.
Yeah. Andy, when you left Smith Barney and the paycheck stopped coming in, at what point did you have that oh shit moment? Like, oh, what have I done the right thing here? Can I really make a living trading?
That probably took about 30 seconds to set in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge switch. And one of the things you got to learn early on, this was a big lesson for me, is you're like, okay, we get started and you make a little money, and then, all right, so what do? You want a paycheck, right? You take some money and pay the bills, or spend it, or put it in another account, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're like, what do you want to do now? I want to make that money back, right? I want to see my account balance go back where it is. And that is many times not the recipe for healthy trading and clear thinking.
Trying to trade for a number, right? Or trying to trade for bills. It never works. You got to
exactly. Whether you're trying to make up for a losing streak, or pay the bills, or just hit a target, a goal, whatever it is, focusing on that number, that dollar sign result is not the way.
This is such an important topic, and I can relate to this wholeheartedly, Andy. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but I've been trading for 26 years, and on a handful of occasions throughout my career, I've decided that, I can fully make a living from trading now. I can support myself from trading. And then I would quit whatever job I was doing, my other income, and go full bore. And every single time, Andy, I didn't like blow up, but I just stopped making money. It was too much pressure. And I think one of those, now that I think back on it, I have some distance from it now. I think one of the issues that I had was, as you said, I was trading to a number, right? I was trying to hit a certain nut every day or every week. I'm like, if I could do that, then I'm going to be good. And having that pressure and that mindset, in a way, was actually limiting, because let's just make up numbers here. Let's say I wanted to make $500 a day, right? Well, on the days where I make $500, I shouldn't stop if halfway through a trading day and I make $500, because that day might be the day that I make $5,000. But I'll never make that if I'm like trading to a number and then stopping. Right?
It's exactly right. It's goals it's a tricky topic, because how do you motivate yourself to keep sticking to your discipline and trying to achieve and get where you want to be without clearly stated goals, right? But in trading, it's a detriment most of the time. So if the goal is too focused on results, and so we have to come back to that process and focus on, check your boxes every day. Whatever it is, follow your process and just be ready. And I couldn't agree more. And there's people out there that do it. And I always, I'm not one to tell anybody they're doing it wrong, especially if they're successful. Everybody, we all have to find our own way and our own path. And ultimately, this game is about figuring out what works for you as an individual. And everybody does it a little bit differently. So if there's folks out there that have that $500 a day goal, or they have a goal of just not being read more than X number of days a week or month, whatever, that's fine. But for me, it doesn't work. And I would hate to know, looking back, obviously at an instance like you said, where, all right, I'm up good money, I'm going to stop for the day and go for a hike or go outside or whatever, and then look back and be like, oh my gosh, if I'd have stuck around for 30 more minutes or 60 more minutes or whatever, we cannot. It's something David Prince preaches all the time. So you can't create opportunities in the market. We all, the opportunities show up when they show up. We just have to be ready and seize them when they get there. And, that was another kind of a sidebar, hard lesson is, trying to make the switch from a regular job to becoming a trader. You want to get up and you go to work hard every day, right? Well, working hard doesn't mean pushing the buttons all the time. It doesn't mean just keep trading until it works. It means, again, sticking to that process and following the routine and the discipline. And a lot of times that is like, you know what? I'm doing nothing. This is hard work. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like it, but I just got to do nothing for now.
And that's a part of the process, because really most good systems or strategies are going to be lumpy. In other words, they're better in some environments, and then maybe, they survive in other environments, right? And that's just the nature of it. You can't try to turn it off and turn it on and game those environments. There's stuff that you could do, but you're probably better off not. So I'll go months at a time losing. Like last summer 2023, market was correcting. It was ugly, tough, right? But then the Q4 bottom, November and December, they make your year. But you just have to stick with it. If you're coming to your desk every morning and saying, I got to make 500 today, it's just going to drive you crazy at certain times. Or if you're coming and saying, I got to pay my mortgage this month. Every time I tried to trade to pay my mortgage, I did not pay my mortgage that month.
Yeah. Truth.
Yeah. Andy, going back to like, it's hard work even when you're not pressing the keys. That's sensitive to me too. I work from home. My wife is here. She doesn't work. I mean, she's a stay-at-home mom, right? She has some side businesses, but she's at home like me. And there are certain days, or have been days, where I didn't do much. I mean, it didn't look like I did much, right? My wife might find me in the corner of my office in my chair reading a book, and she's like, "Are you working?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm working. This is work." And it's hard to explain to people when we're not trading that this is actually part of the process. Like this is not the environment we should be trading in right now. And we'd be doing more harm than good if I was sitting here banging keys. I need to be away from the market. I'm aware of what's going on, but I need to be away from it, quote unquote. And to the outside looking in, that looks like someone who's just, slacking off.
Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. It's very hard to explain. It's very hard to understand if you're not in that position, and it's very hard to get used to as well. It takes,
and it's even worse. It's even worse when you're in a losing streak, right? If you've had like a couple of weeks or a month when you're getting your ass handed to you, and then you're like taking time away because like this is not the right environment. Then you have the others looking at you going, "Well, this is why you're sucking, because you're not doing any work. Like you're not working hard. Like get in there and get to work." Like no, I need to do this. This is important.
Yeah. It's such a paradox. It's like the opposite of everything, and that's all across trading, I guess, is there's so many natural tendencies that we have. Like, well, if you just do this or just, and like almost all of them are wrong. Like whatever you feel like you need to be doing right now, whatever impulse comes in, it's like, this is the right thing. No, it's not. Don't do that. And I don't know, maybe there's, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there a lot better at it than me, but for me, you have to bump your head on that wall like about 1,000 times before you finally say, okay, this is stupid. Stop doing that. And it's, those are old habits are hard to break.
You're absolutely right about how all of our natural tendencies are completely wrong for trading, right? What's common
Yeah.
sense outside that window right there is not what works in the market.
Yeah. Like get on Twitter. Well, just buy the stuff that goes up. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right, but not quite that easy. But one of my favorites is I have a really good friend that I grew up with, and he never played sports. He's not a sports guy at all. He doesn't watch football or anything. And so when we'd be having a football watching party or a Super Bowl party or whatever, he'd look at the games and he'd be like, this is stupid. The guy's just running right up the middle. What's he think he's going to do? Or the guy does an end around. It's like, what are these guys doing? He's right over there. Why don't they just go tackle him? And it's like, if only it were that easy. That's what they want to do, but it doesn't always work so simply, right?
Well, this brings up a good question, Andrew. We're talking about how the rest of the world can't relate to what we do and what we experience and the things that we go through. How do you reconcile that with where you live? How do you find your crew, your people, to have that outlet outside? I mean, I guess you have the prop trading firm. Maybe this is a bad question now that I think about it, is I forgot you're at a prop firm. You have that outlet, but it's tough to find it locally, right?
I'm not having any cool trader meetups at locally. That's for sure. That's not happening around here. It would be fun, but I just don't think there's a community to support it, or at least if there is, I haven't found it. And so yeah, it is difficult, but it's not as difficult as it used to be, because that's just again, like we're chatting now, like we've got the virtual trading floors, we've got Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. There's a million ways to meet and talk to folks nowadays, which is just huge. I can't imagine trying to do this 20 years ago without being, in a physical office with other people. I just don't think, I mean, obviously we didn't have Twitter. The internet was new, or not new, but you know what I mean? Social media, that kind of thing, was still very unproven in its infancy. And so this is over the last 5 years, things have just accelerated so much to make these kind of activities not only attainable, but really, really pretty seamless.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a trader meetup every day with your friends on Twitter Spaces. Because I'm like you, Andrew. There's nobody within, I don't know, 3.5 hours of me that I could talk about markets or charts with. But we have Twitter, we have the internet. We can go and do stuff on YouTube. Talking about it right now. If you're not doing
out there,
things,
I joke with my wife, and she'll be like, "Who are you talking with?" And I'm like, "This is just one of my imaginary internet friends." It's like you get to know. I mean, you literally get to know people, and obviously, we've had the good fortune to meet in person a couple times, at least briefly. But there's so many people out there that I've never met in real life, and but your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, you feel like you know people, and you do know people. It's really it's pretty cool.
Well, Straza, Andrew did one thing that I wish more traders would do. People come to Colorado. People come to Colorado to vacation. People come here to ski. They come here to hike. They do all kinds of stuff. Well, Andrew reached out to me, said he was coming to Colorado, and we coordinated so that I had a trader meetup happening when he came to town. And he got to come hang out with 15 people or so. There were all people who speak his language. And that was really cool. And Andrew, I'm so glad you came out to do that. And we had a great time meeting you. And I know everybody really enjoyed meeting you. And this is a PSA to all of you watching. If you come into Colorado, reach out to me. Come hang out, meet some traders while you're in town. Why not? Make it fun.
Well, I think that's one of the coolest things you do, Sean. I always get FOMO, so I would love to hear. How was it, Andrew? What was it like?
It was really cool. It was, it's fantastic. Just the need that we just talked about, being able to get together with folks locally and talk markets or talk trading or charts or whatever it is you want to do. I mean, I think it's really fantastic that you're doing that on a regular. I had no idea you'd been, how long, like 10 years or something you've been doing?
We've been doing it 12 years.
Talk about discipline and consistency. That's a routine, man. That's, and so to have that out there and to do it, month in and month out is really, and it was a great crowd. You got a really cool thing going there. I think more people across the country and the world should absolutely try to do the same kind of thing.
Do you find it surprising, Sean, that there's so many of you out there in Colorado? Like, you got a pretty big group.
Yeah, there's more than I would have guessed when I started it. In fact, when I started it, I think we were getting like 4 or 5 people per meetup, which was fine. And there were 4 or 5 great people. I mean, Brian Shannon used to come. He was one of the first people to come to my meetups. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, we're everywhere, and we cast a wide net too, right? Like we're not like just stock traders. Like if you trade anything, whether it's crypto or bonds, or if you just are an ETF dollar cost averager, if you have any interest in the markets whatsoever, come on out. You speak our language. And you know, and it shows. Those are the type of people who show up. We have every type of people to come out. We have some guys who've were former exchange members. I mean, the guys who've been trading for 35, 40 years. And then we also have people who have never traded ever, but they're curious. You know, we get everything in between, and it's good. And it's I'm always amazed sometimes, Andrew. I don't know if you noticed this when you were with my group, but we always get like somebody, couple people, new faces, brand new, who've never traded before at every meetup. And sometimes when a new trader starts asking questions, you know, they're asking some of the most basic stuff, right? But it forces you to kind of revisit things that you thought you already knew very well and haven't thought about in a long time, and see it through their eyes. And you're like, oh, wait, that's an interesting take that you have. That's an interesting idea. And a light bulb goes off. And this has happened to me so many times. I mean, that might be the greatest benefit I've gotten from running this group for 12 years is I get constantly reminded of things that I long ago forgot and need to be reminded of.
Yeah, some fresh perspective is almost always a good thing, right? And that's, you know, it's maybe one of the potential pitfalls of routine and consistency is you can get in a rut, right? You're doing the same thing day in and day out, and you know, it's got a lot of benefits, but every now and again, yeah, we benefit from kind of being jarred by a different perspective or a fresh look, and think, you know, like you said, the kind of that light bulb, that aha, like, oh wow, maybe I should look at this a little differently. And it's always a benefit, I think. Sorry about the background noise there.
Yeah, so whoa, there's a ghost out there. So
Yeah.
Andrew, what has been the hardest thing since you've made that transition into a full-time trader? What's been the hardest thing for you?
Oh man, it's kind of hard to narrow it down to one. It's such a huge shift. We've already touched on a couple of, you know, the refocusing efforts to know that what doesn't always look like hard work is hard work. Realizing that it's not you against the markets or the other traders or anything else. It's literally you against you every day, and even more so when you're sitting in an office by yourself or in front of a screen by yourself. Learning not to focus on the money, the paycheck aspect of things. It's you know, we've already covered that. It's a detriment. You have to really rewire, you know, kind of your whole way of thinking, and just build completely new habits. And habits are a hard thing to change. And that's it's a long process. I don't know that it ever ends. I'm always learning. I feel like I learn something new every day. I think that's a key part of finding success is, you know, be open to that new perspective, that fresh look, that basic question from a beginner, whatever it is that makes you open your eyes and reconsider. You got to learn to balance, like, all right, here's the tried and true. Here's what works. Here's my discipline. Can't stray from the system. Balancing that with, you know, being willing and able to take a little bit of a different view, or do things slightly differently, or modify your system just enough. You know, it's really kind of a razor's edge of doing both. You go too far one way or the other, and it often doesn't work out well. So it's a hard thing to master.
So
maybe I'll get there one day.
So how often are you like tweaking your system? You've been prop trading for what, over 4 years now? A little over 4 years. Are like, how much system building are you still doing on like a day-to-day basis? Like, are you still figuring it out and tweaking stuff, or you got in there, you found something that works, and now it's kind of like just a smooth machine?
Both. You know, like a major system overhaul, No, that doesn't happen very often. Little tweaks and adjustments along the way, constantly. I think, certainly wouldn't consider it a smooth machine. I'm not, I'm not in that mode of saying, okay, here's absolutely what works, and I'm not going to change it. It's a constant evolution for me so far of trying to. When you first start, it's like I've got to. Again, I got to be active. I got to day trade. I got to, make some cash flow, balance that with finding some big swings and some big, all that kind of stuff. And that was never, coming from strictly a long-term focus, that was a major turnaround, a huge adjustment. And so, focusing more, getting past that and kind of settling into more of a swing trade routine has been a big benefit, slowing down a little bit and realizing, you don't have to be, some of these guys, you see their executions on a day and it's like they're a market maker almost. They're just constantly in and out and scalping and doing this. And again, it works for them. That's fantastic, but that is not what worked for me. And so just, trying to slow down and take a more of a swing trade or kind of a short, medium term approach has been a big help. And I don't want to, I don't know. Maybe someday you get over the hump and be like, this is what I do. This is how it works, and this is what I'm going to do forever. But I'm more, at least to this point, I feel like I always will be, looking for slight modifications, the little lessons, little changes along the way that constant improvement and learning. I really think because I don't remember the famous quote, but just when you think you figure you got the key to the lock of the market, they change the locks or something. I butchered that quote, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The market's different every day anyhow. And so it's, I think we just have to always be willing to change and adapt and evolve along the way.
Well, Andy, speaking of slowing it down, let's change gears here a little bit. And Straza, forgive me, this is selfish on my part, but I want to talk about the hiking scene out there in West Virginia. What do you do to unwind? I know you're a hiker. I see your pictures you share on Twitter. Is that one of the things you do to unwind and free your mind from all this screen-based bullshit?
Yeah, I'm hopelessly addicted to the outdoors, and I want to get out of this office as much as possible. I'm fortunate enough to live in an area where I can, step right outside and take a walk in the woods. We've got some epic hikes around here, and my wife is a big enthusiast as well. And so yeah, we want to get out, hike, bike, run, walk, take a Jeep ride, whatever it is, ski, fish. It's all, anything to get outside. We're trying to do as much of that as possible.
How close are you to the new River Gorge National Park?
About just over an hour.
And that's the country's newest national park. Is that correct?
It is. It's been a huge change over there. Lots of people from all over the country and the world coming to visit, and I think it's been a big hit.
Is it worthy? Should I make a trip out there sometime? I'm curious.
Absolutely, man. Yes, put it on the list. The Little Grand Canyon of the East, or whatever you want to call it. It's there's some really beautiful hikes over there. And if you're coming through, it's not far off the interstates. It's definitely worth a day trip. Go to the Endless Wall Trail. It's a short out and back that's not too strenuous. That's with some really good scenery. The River Gorge Bridge, which is that's the background photo in my X profile. If you haven't seen it, that's I took that picture on a trail called Long Point, or excuse me, that was maybe the Bridge Buttress Trail. Long Point's on the other side of the canyon there, but there's an infinite number of trails right around the bridge, all over the gorge. You can go rafting. All of that kind of stuff is worth the trip. And if you really want to get crazy, this weekend, this coming Saturday, I believe, is Bridge Day. Have you heard of Bridge Day?
No.
So the New River Gorge Bridge is like the biggest bridge on the East Coast or whatever. Once a year, every year at the end of Golly season, they shut the bridge down and let people jump off of it.
It's cool.
Like the only legal sanctioned base jumping event in the country or something like that. And so these people, they're literally jumping off this bridge like 800 feet, parachuting down into the river.
Well, they're
It's wild.
parachuting down. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's a base jumping thing. And they're going tandem, they're doing backflips, they set up a catapult, or it's really wild. Get on YouTube and look at some Bridge Day videos. It'll blow your mind.
So,
Strezza, up for a road trip? You want to do some bridge jumping?
I would go. I would love to go to West Virginia, but I do have to ask Andrew. I went to the University of Connecticut back in the day. There was this great conference called the Big East.
Yeah.
Are you a Mountaineers fan?
Yes. I cheer for the Mountaineers when they're not playing Marshall. I'm a Marshall grad. I went to Marshall University, and so there's the Mountaineer fans will tell you it's not a rivalry. The Herd fans will tell you it absolutely is a rivalry, and there's definitely a love-hate relationship between the two there. But no, I'm not a hater. I'll cheer for the Mountaineers every chance I get, as long as they're not playing the Herd.
Back when I was in college, they were great. They were so good at football for a couple of years there. Pat White, Steve Slayton. I mean, they were awesome. They were like top 5, top 10 every other year.
Yeah, the Big East Conference was great. And, the really cool thing, and I didn't get to go, but I had a lot of friends that went. The Big East basketball tournament always kicked off at Madison Square Garden, right? So, you get all the big basketball teams right there in the city, and it was always a good time from what I hear.
That is probably my single favorite sporting event of all time. We used to go every single year. The way it works is one ticket gets you to 2 games. So you go in for the first game and everybody leaves and hits the bars around MSG. And then, there's a little break in between. And then you go back and you have tickets for the next game too. And then we would take the train home. But the biggest tournament back in the day was just so good.
I've heard from so many people that it was just really a fun experience.
It was like a party on the Metro North on the way to the games because everybody was just taking the train in to the Big East.
That doesn't surprise me. Morgantown has a bit of a reputation as a party campus, so I'm sure they were living it up on the trains and anywhere else they could in New York.
Yeah, I have a friend who went to West Virginia, and he definitely fits the reputation as a party guy. He had a party, yeah, for sure. Well, Andrew, this was great. We're so grateful that you made the time to do this and share some of your insights. And I think there's a lot here for people who are newer into trading and going through the lumps right now. I mean, you're not that far removed from your beginning days as a trader, so the things you've said and the ideas you've shared are relatable to a lot of people who are new in this game. And hey, you know what? I meant to mention this earlier, but this is a weird segue, but kudos to you for making such a drastic shift in careers later in. I'm not calling you old, Andy. You're my age. I'm not calling you old, but you made a big shift later in life than most people would. So kudos to you for having the stones to do that.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's it was a daunting task, but still fighting my way through it, and it's been really happy about it. So I love doing it. I love all the people I'm getting to meet. Talking to you guys, doing this kind of stuff. It makes it all worthwhile, and it's really fun. So thanks for having me on today.
This was awesome. Thank you, Andrew. So that was really lovely. What a nice guy Andrew is. And I think, Sean, you nailed it and ended that episode perfectly, because I couldn't figure out a way to say it, but I was thinking the same thing the whole time. You come in, you enter the industry, you do 15, 20 years at a firm like Smith Barney, Morgan Stanley, whatever, in the same role. Most guys are not leaving.
Yeah.
Most guys are not walking away and reinventing themselves 20 years in and trying something completely new. That is an element of risk taking that most people simply don't have at that age.
Right. That was damn impressive. I'm glad we got that in because when he was saying it, we went off on a tangent and we got distracted. But I was thinking that, like, we got to talk about this. This is something you don't hear that very often. And I love how, we talked about a little bit in the show early, like he went kind of the backwards route, right? Like most people who do the role that he did at Smith Barney, they started out trading and then they kind of went into that because trading was hard or whatever.
Yeah. But it was still conventional in a way. Like some of the other guys that we've talked to, it's like just last week we were talking, you were about to be a priest and then you ended up as a trader, like some strange stuff. Andrew kind of did it in, I think, a more textbook way. Working at a big brokerage, whatever, bank, right, for a long time, getting to know the industry, the players in it, how it works, right? He probably got very familiar with the execution side of things, and then made the shift to going and taking risks in the actual market. So I think that was actually probably a pretty nice path. Like, I think everything that he probably learned and did at Smith Barney for 15, 20 years really helped him and prepared him to make this jump.
You know, one thing that I'm kind of jealous about when it comes to Andy is that where he lives. Now, I'm not saying I'm jealous about West Virginia per se, but I'm jealous that he lives in a beautiful place. I live in a beautiful place. I mean, I'm not complaining about where I live from that regards, but like he has a way to really disconnect from the markets when he's done in a way that many of us don't. Like, because when he goes out and interacts with the people that he interacts with out there in West Virginia, no one's asking him what the S&P did today. No one's saying, did you see that move in NVIDIA? Or what's going on with that crypto meme coin, whatever. Like, no one's asking him that shit. No one cares. And I think that's really refreshing and really helpful because, you know, you and me and JC, you know, I mean, we're thinking markets all day long, right? We're thinking markets, we're talking markets, we're trading markets, and we need those outlets. We need to be able to get away from it from time to time. And it's easier for some than others, but a guy like Andrew and where he's physically located, I mean, I think he's doing it right.
Well, I could speak to that because that is my life right now. So when earlier on in my career, it was work all day and then go to happy hour and talk about work with the people that you worked with all day. That was the first 5, 6, 7 years of my life.
That was me in Chicago. Yeah.
And then even I'm playing golf on a Saturday with guys either that I work with or who are in my industry group or I knew from business school, right? And it's the same shit. And you literally cannot get away from it. I go to Sunday dinner at my grandma's house and I'm talking to my aunt who works at Bridgewater, my other aunt who's a lawyer at HSBC. You know what I mean? Like, you literally can't leave it. Here, I'm in the Florida Keys now. My friends, my golf buddies, they have no idea what I do. They don't try to ask. They don't understand it. When they try to explain what I do, they're a mile off and I don't correct them. It is so goddamn refreshing.
Yeah, it is nice.
Fish and local whatever stories and like anything but markets. And it is nice because it's forces you to unplug.
Yep.
And really you want to. When you leave your desk, you don't want to go to happy hour and talk about work.
I mean, that was my life in Chicago for many years. And yeah. So no complaints that we've changed that lifestyle.
You got jealous. Your eyes lit up when you heard him say, I walk out my door and I can go for a walk in the woods.
Yes. Yes. I live in Colorado. There's great hiking here. But one thing about Colorado hiking that is not my favorite is that it's pretty exposed. Like you're open and you have great views. There's great things to see, but I would rather be in a thick forest, like big trees all around me, moss. Like, I love that kind of stuff. And he kind of has that where he is versus what I have.
The woods are cool. I miss the woods sometimes. I gotta be honest.
The woods are cool. I'm going up to Seattle after we're in San Diego, and I'm going to be doing some hiking up there, and I'm pretty excited about that. All right. Hey, another great guest, dude. We did it. Great job. And Andrew was great. Thanks again to Andrew for being on the show. Man, we got to keep the good roll going here, man.
We got a hot lineup coming these next couple of weeks.
We got a hot lineup. That's for sure. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.